California's Supreme Court ruling could force companies to reclassify contractors as employees. The OOIDA-ATA battle breaks out into a full verbal brawl, all in public. Nikola Motor claims Tesla infringed its truck patents, seeks $2 billion in damages. I'm Zach Strickland, filling in for JP.
And I'm Chad.
And we discuss all these things and more on this week's episode of What the Truck, sponsored by Link America, your link to reliable shipping.
That's right. And it's exciting to have Link America sponsor us. And it's exciting to have you substituting for our star editorial reporter, JP, hitting it out in Long Beach, covering... what trade show is he covering right now?
I don't really
know. He's covering some cool stuff. But Zach, what kind of beer are you drinking in his stead?
I am drinking a Lieutenant Dank by Wicked Weed Brewing.
Exciting!
Yeah, it's a very hoppy IPA, a more traditional IPA. Not like your New England IPA, which is very cloudy. It's a little bit more bitter.
Well, I'm excited to have someone doing something other than drinking a Bell's Two Hearted in the house. Even though you didn't ask, I'm going to tell you what I'm drinking. It's also by Lagunitas.
Lagunitas.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
you're a big fan.
I am.
You've been to the actual.
I have been to the Lagunitas Brewery in Chicago. And it is a magical experience.
This one, I'm sure it is. And this is a magical special ale. It's a seasonal ale. I couldn't resist, especially when I saw that its ABV was 11.3. It's called Waldo's Special Ale. And right now, I'm feeling like, where's Waldo? After having drank one of these. No, but seriously, this is going to be a great session. And before we get started on these fascinating headlines of the week, Zach, I want to test your Trucker Lingo.
I'm excited.
You know, you pretty much your entire adult career, you have been in the trucking industry, right, Zach?
I have.
So there is no excuse for getting this lingo right.
Except for the fact that I was largely on the numerical end of that spectrum.
I'm not sure what that means. That doesn't sound like an excuse, though. Thank goodness. Let's start out with some easy ones. Ready? Number one, hammer down.
It means to go fast because you're about to run out of time on making that delivery.
That was an easy softball one. If you had missed that, we'd be in trouble.
I feel good. You're boosting my confidence.
I do what I can. Two, left coast.
That would be California, the West Coast.
Ooh, which is making some left-hand turns, it seems, this week. Let's see. Number three. So far, so good. I'm going through my notes here. Where is number three? Oh, yes. Evel Knievel.
I'm going to just take a guess here and say that he is a reckless driver.
Incorrect. Sorry. Thanks for playing. Motorcycle cop is an Evel Knievel. Now you can see the association. Good try. Good. Number four, bear.
That would be a police officer.
Ding, ding, ding. Wow. 3 out of 4 ain't bad so far. Zach Strickland in the house. Number 5, deadhead. Totally easy.
That is a little easy.
It doesn't mean it is a Grateful Dead follower.
No. That's basically where you're driving empty without a load to go pick up.
Ding, ding, ding. So we can tell you are an industry insider. Okay, they might get a little tougher now for side 2 of the compilation. Number 6, greasy side up.
Oh, wow.
Come on, you can greasy side up. Think about it.
I'm going to just go out on a limb and say it's something about an axle.
Well, that's partially correct, but not good enough for our sponsors. It is a truck with its wheels in the air. Number 7, Georgia Overdrive.
Oh man, you're really
Georgia overdrive.
Really, I have no idea.
Put into neutral going down a hill to increase speed. That's a Georgia overdrive. Uh-oh, Strickland, come on now. Number 8, bear in the air.
Oh, that would be a police officer that is airborne, such as a helicopter.
Bing, bing, bing.
Yeah.
Very nice association there. Can you finish strong now? Coming down the last 2, county mountie. County mountie.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, you can get this. This is within...
Is it a Canadian police officer?
That is incorrect.
Or... Oh, it's just.
I know you're thinking mountie.
Yeah,
no,
no.
it's not like that. This is county. Think county.
Some sort of local police officer.
Yes, and a sheriff. It's sheriff.
Oh,
You
okay.
can't get that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's not. That's out of your. All right, and last one, and I'll give you this much of a hint. Along the same lines, what we're thinking: a city kitty. City kitty.
So a city cop.
Yes.
Okay.
Bing, 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 bing. Let's see, Barry. How many did he get right? Well, Barry's not counting. We think it's a 60 or a 70, which, hey, ain't bad. We'll count it up at another time. Nice job. Thanks for playing, Zach. And way to loosen things up for our very heavy headlines of the week. All kinds of conflict and mayhem happening in the world today, the world of freight and transportation. Our first headline that seriously, it's kind of an important ruling happened. This past Monday, the California Supreme Court ruled that basically it was a ruling against employers. It was pro-employee, and basically saying that it's going to be more difficult for companies to label workers as independent contractors rather than employees. Can you tell us a little bit give us an overview of what's happening here without diving down to the weeds of this litigious language?
Yeah, I don't want to go too deep on this because legal lingo is very difficult and cumbersome to deal with. Basically, what's happening is Dynamex has come out and turned way back in 2004, 2005, Dynamex turned all their California employees into independent contractors to avoid state taxes and all the other different varying regulations and fees associated with the state of California.
A crafty way around taxes.
Basically trying to get some extra money, and the government comes in and says, sorry, we're not going to let you do that.
Is it such a, it's just a state. California's just a state, right? This isn't a national ruling. What's the big deal? Why should we care about what California's saying?
Oh, it's a big deal because California is notorious for governing any issue that it sees fit to govern. Anybody that's worked anywhere in business knows that California on the human resources side is nightmarish to deal with because they have so many laws and so many regulations. And just a few weeks ago, the California Air Resources Board came down on brokers.
Yeah, what's going on in California?
They basically...
It's my home state. I love California in a way, but from a business operator side, it sounds like there's something going. Is there a connection between? So give us what else happened last week with the CARB? What is that?
CARB, California Air Resources Board. So
they came down on a couple of 3PLs. They suddenly started enforcing.
It actually wasn't 3PLs. I think Martin and Roadrunner, who are both. Okay. But at the same time, I believe brokers.
A couple of carriers.
I think brokers did dispatch these loads in California. So they were.
And they're not in California.
No. The brokers themselves were not in California, or they dispatched the loads within California, and California says it doesn't matter if you actually are warehoused there, like if there's state offices, like Roadrunner's in Illinois, I believe.
One was in Wisconsin.
And I think Martin's in Wisconsin. And they say it doesn't matter if you are domiciled in another state. Yeah. You dispatched a truck in California. You have to know if you're compliant or not.
With what were the regulations?
I'm not 100% clear, but it has something to do with air and the emissions. It's California. They're very green. They want to think of themselves as progressive. And so they want to regulate you.
But they had not regulated at all up until this time.
That is what's so confusing.
And then they said that it's not precedent setting, even though they're just now enforcing a rule. Maybe it had been on the books, but they're just now deciding to. So between that and like fines and regulations, and now a Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah, and the Dynamex thing kind of is more of a big deal because it touches the owner-operators. And so they're kind of...
They're very exposed.
Now if they go and work for another trucking company, they're considered employees of that company. And a lot of these owner-operators do not want to be considered employees of a trucking company because the nature of who they are is independent.
Right.
And what's happened in the California Supreme Court ruling is that they have focused on this one issue of Dynamex and applied a broad sweeping verdict to something without potentially considering all the other minutia and granular effects in the industry itself, especially in California, which is very up on the gig economy.
Yes, and some are speculating that what are the effects going to be to the gig economy, such as transportation, startup behemoths, Uber and Lyft and other startups in the area, reliant on independent contractors. But it feels like speculation a little bit. I mean, is it the ruling? I don't think the spirit of the law here, the spirit of the ruling, didn't mean to be. I'm speculating, but as far-reaching as the potential results could be.
I think they've gone and made it a little myopic in the way that they are trying.
What was it trying to correct?
It was trying to correct this. Dynamex basically went in and said, I'm going to get around this ruling and kind of work the system. And in that respect, California did have a point. You guys are cheating us on some taxes, and we're going to make sure that you don't do that, and other people don't follow suit. Except for the fact that Dynamex just found a loophole in their system, and then forgot to think about all the other people this may impact.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Yeah, no, the independent contractors in any industry, if that's their sole purpose to work in that specific industry, such as Uber, a lot of Uber drivers, that's all they do. And so they're going to have to be on the employee roster of Uber. Yeah,
so it obviously rattles a lot of people in the industry. However, there are law firms that are already saying, like Scopelitis Transportation Law, has pointed out that, look, right now it's a little premature to issue definitive forecasts about the impact, although some are already doing that, and they're basically going to try to develop some guidance to address the decision both at an operational level and in connection with all ongoing cases that are already happening.
True.
So stay tuned to FreightWaves as we bring you further coverage of this developing situation. Another huge headline this week, in a week full of controversial and big headlines that you get to help me cover this week, Strickland, is the OOIDA-ATA battle breaks out into a full verbal brawl, all in public. Strange. What, you as a previous or still an industry insider in certain ways, give us an overview. Who is OOIDA? It sounds like a green bean manufacturer or something. Who is OOIDA and who is ATA? And give us an overview of what's happening.
Okay, so OOIDA, OOIDA, is known as the Owner Operator Independent Drivers Association. ATA is the American Trucking Association. So these two entities represent, the OOIDA people represent the independent contractor, the owner operator, the people that do not work for your bigger trucking companies like Knight Swift, Werner, all those people. ATA represents more the big industry, the bigger picture. And what's happened here is the ATA head, Chris Spear, essentially comes out in the middle of this conference and starts blasting
I would say so.
the OOIDA side of things, and OOIDA surprisingly had very little to say, I think, but
yeah, our coverage of it seems to be mostly what ATA President Chris Spear said, with only a minor comment from OOIDA just kind of denying.
Yeah, I think Chris Spear comes out and makes some pretty strong remarks about OOIDA, and referencing death threats.
Yeah, he said some of OOIDA's stances are meaningless. He called them combative, and he said he doesn't lose sleep over OOIDA's mission or how it implements their mission and the struggles that it faces. But then he went on to say, I mean, it sounds like it's getting personal. He said that he and his family have received death threats from OOIDA interests, and that persons affiliated with OOIDA interests have threatened to bomb ATA's headquarters in Arlington, Virginia. It's hardly a laughing matter, except for it's so shocking.
I mean, it's not funny in itself and its content, but it's funny that these two grown men, well, really only one grown man in this situation, are coming out and kind of saying these remarks like they're on a playground, in the middle of
I mean, what's the relationship here between OOIDA and ATA? I mean, is it a love-hate relationship, would you say? Or?
So not to stereotype things too much here, but ATA is kind of like the corporate representative of the trucking industry.
Okay, right.
So they're basically looking at the big picture, and they want to make sure that trucking runs as smoothly as possible, creating more profits and benefits to the overall trucking community. OOIDA is more of the ground level type representation.
The independent, representing the independent
guys who are on the ground making it happen, and they want to make sure that the granular responsibilities are not overlooked in this bigger picture, which is both of them have solid points.
And you would think but it's not a love-hate relationship. Is it a hate relationship? Like, why can't what would bring the two together?
It's hard to say, because really anybody that's worked in a corporate environment would understand that, the ground level employees and the upper level management a lot of time do not get on the same page. And these two kind of operate in that same vector. The ATA operates at the 30,000 foot view. It says, look, we're running trucks more efficient than we ever have. The OOIDA people say, hey, you're ignoring the fact that we're not making enough money.
Yeah. One point that I think DC Velocity reported on earlier in the week was what Spear had also said was on the issue of the under the age of 21 drivers, and they asked, where is OOIDA on this issue? They don't understand why OOIDA wouldn't back a bill that would create more opportunity for its members. And where is OOIDA on that particular issue? Do they have a point?
They do have a point, but we also are talking about some sort of political grandstanding here, where they find an issue that one side has not really made a solid stance on, or maybe they're not really.
It's a developing situation.
Yeah, it's not necessarily something, but they're nitpicking a little bit, but at the same time, they have a really good point.
It sounds like some personal stuff's going on, and it sounds strangely like, how everybody's behaving. It's not super professional, or it is not, call someone out publicly, handle your stuff in house, like a football team or a baseball team, right? You don't want to just say.
That's what's so, I guess, entertaining about it, is that you have this very, the guy that represents the corporate environment is coming out and sort of acting like the ground level employee would potentially be considered to act in that manner. It's very confusing.
It's a confusing and also developing situation. We should have them onto the podcast. Maybe have Todd Spencer and Chris Spear come onto the podcast, and maybe they could kiss and make up. Well, not kiss, okay, because you can't. That doesn't make for good podcasting. But they could, talk out their different. Like we could maybe hear the thing spelled out, and I'm serious. Like let's have them on if they'd be willing. We're willing to listen to each side in a fair way. How about 5 good minutes? All right. Well, do you think that's a? Let's try it.
I think it's a fantastic
on the
idea.
editorial team. Let's reach out, give them a try next Thursday. Stay tuned. Okay, for our final major headline of the week, this is an interesting one. Nikola Motor claims Tesla infringed its truck patents, seeks $2 billion in damages. $2 billion. Now that's a lot, right? So what's happening here with Nikola?
So essentially what's happened here is Nikola and Tesla. Nikola's kind of considered themselves the first man to the plate, and Tesla's come in and
but they're doing different things. They consider themselves the first man to the plate.
Yeah. Okay. In this specific instance, I think Nikola. I get the feel at least that Nikola considers himself the first man to the plate. As Tesla's kind of associated with, automated cars, electric batteries, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
And Nikola's like focused on the semi.
Been doing their thing.
Yeah, and so
hydrogen fuel celled electric vehicles.
I think what you have here is somebody that's basically saying, hey, you guys need to chill out. You're giving us a bad name because of what you're doing over there. And obviously Tesla has come under fire a lot, a little bit.
Let's reel this back a little bit. I don't think they're suing them for $2 billion because of of Tesla's bad
No,
press.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
They're saying that they're, they're saying
they have 3 patents that they're saying that they have violated, and it's based on some pictures taken, and I believe it's a fuselage, a wrapped windshield, and I forget the third one. It's a side door.
And apparently, here to me, this was interesting about the story is they basically sent a cease and we didn't know this until this week. They sent a cease and desist letter to Tesla. Leading up to Tesla's announcement in November about their electric semi. So, and what did Tesla choose to do? They said, Nikola said, hey, can you please hold off your announcement until we have resolved this matter? And what was Tesla's response?
Nope.
Just chose to ignore the letter
and
made their big fancy super publicized announcement. I think it was like November 17th-ish. And then all the stuff that's happened since then.
Yeah, Tesla's not had a good
run. And it's interesting too. As a brief aside, in that time, I think it was a couple of months ago, we covered how Anheuser-Busch had ordered, I think it was 125, 120. They pre-ordered 125 of Tesla's electric semis. And boy, that was like, whoa, look at
huge
these
news.
Orders that are happening for Tesla's semi. And people were like, really? It must kind of be real or something. All these, but then you know what happened this week? In another story that just is, have you heard that Anheuser-Busch has now ordered 800 of Nikola's.
Oh, man.
Wow.
That's big time.
That is big time. But that's a brief aside. It seems like they're putting, I don't know.
It's almost like they're picking sides.
Is that what it seems like?
It feels that way to me. I don't know.
Anyway, the $2 billion story, $2
billion.
That's a lot of money.
That's a huge money, but it's also an attention grabber. I mean, we're not. They know they're not going to get $2 billion worth of settlement money, but they are making a point, and they could potentially cause enough friction to have an impact. And I think that's the point of the number.
Tesla's getting it from all sides.
Nikola smells blood in the water.
Yeah. Ooh, that might be kind of it. And as much as I agree that, but it's like this is 6 months ago. This is at least 6 months ago they identified this issue, and they've been talking about it for a while.
For sure.
And they didn't mention it in any of the announcements. They've held on to it.
Until now.
Yeah. Interesting timing. So these are some of the big topics of the day. Now is the time for Zach to try his best, his level best, to participate in the game that Chad and JP are getting really good at. And it's Big Deal or Little Deal, where we run down the 6 of the other headlines of the week in under 2 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. And more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Zach, are you ready?
I hope so.
Well, ready or not, here we come. All right, so the spot market continues to degrade as the freight market stabilizes. Big deal or little deal?
This is a big deal. We've come off the most heated time in years in the spot market with enormous volatility. A lot of carriers have moved their trucks to the spot market and reap the benefits. It will be
C.H. Robinson operating margins get squeezed, and Wall Street notices and reacts. Big deal or little deal?
Little deal. It's basically 2 divisions of C.H. Robinson, Global Forward and Fresh, that have not performed, and that is not news to anybody that's familiar with C.H. Robinson.
Carrier confidence has impacted freight markets as much as capacity. Big deal or little deal?
This is a huge deal. For years, carriers have taken abuse from the shippers, saying like, oh, sorry, we should lower your rates. And now they finally come out and said, you know what, guys? We need more money for what we do. That is a big change in dynamic. All right, Chad, I guess it's my turn. So, Chad, the Shell Starship is almost ready to launch. Big deal, little deal?
Little tiny deal. It's a big and sexy thing, but let's wait to see how scalable this carbon fiber behemoth is that took years to develop. But you know what? We're going to keep covering it on its cross-country trip in May.
UPS is pushing to seek to deliver much bigger parcels. Big deal, little deal?
I'm going to say big deal. But right now they cap packages at 150 pounds. But if properly executed, this service represents a real competitive advantage for UPS over its competitors, and it establishes UPS as kind of a one-stop shop for its existing retail partners like Amazon and Walmart.
Women in the transportation industry is on the rise. Big deal, little deal?
Big deal! The percentage of women in the industry only grew by 1% before, but now it has grown by 19% so far. And I made it happen.
Yes.
Oh,
right.
Hurrying to the end. High fives for everyone.
One more. Chad is not wearing sandals today. Big deal, little deal?
I have no comment. You can't see this. All right, and we just want to say to everybody across America, thanks again to Link America for sponsoring the past 2 episodes of What the Truck. Check them out. They are your link to reliable shipping. And that'll do it for the big stories this week. As always, we go into more detail about each of the topics we've talked about today on our website, FreightWaves.com. We will continue to publish this podcast weekly, so be sure to subscribe to What the Truck on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Also, make sure to leave us a review to let us know what you think of our new podcast.
And if you're into learning about technology that's shaping up the industry, you definitely want to be at Transparency 18 in Atlanta this May. Visit transparency18.com to learn more about the event.
That'll do it for today. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week on What the Truck.